Gundam.tk presents Crossbone Gundam X3. Now that you've seen some of the tools though and the rationale behind this, it's time to actually look at the Gundam itself. And please, I hope this doesn't come across as me saying, wow, look how awesome this paint job is, because it's not. When I look at it up close, there's all sorts of little bubbles on the things. I didn't get everything as smooth as I wanted. There's other paint applications I should have put on. I didn't paint the white on the body, I just painted the blue, the yellow, and the red. So that looks really good, but the white looks a little bit different. And anyway, there's a million other things that I should have remolded with putty and plastics, etc. But my point is that pretty much anybody, if you want to just pick up some spray cans, you can turn whatever Gundams you want into another color. Starting at the bottom, I guess I painted the red here on the feet. Most of this is just in the original colors. I didn't paint the gray inner frame or anything like that, but I did put some yellow paint on these yellow parts on, but you'll see that I have inconsistent yellow all over there. And the only other thing you have to be careful of is to put blue parts, to paint those blue parts on the knees. The X1 Gundam, of course, has a million variations with the X1 Kai, the Kai Kai, then of course you've got the full cloth, etc. But anyway, when I was putting this together, I decided, well, just with a quick look up anyway, the X3 doesn't have these screw whips, so I just put on the regular back armor, but I did go with the anchor cables on the front. And otherwise, it's pretty much just a matter of taking all of the dark blue-black parts from the X1 and just turning them blue. So that's parts down here on the side skirts. Of course, this yellow part here. This red part, if you're following the directions for the Kai Kai from the full cloth, they won't tell you to put that in there, so you've got to put those in yourself. I used just some tape down here and painted on some red lines below the shoulder armor. I had tried not putting the shoulder armor down and painting the inside, but I thought this looked a little bit better. Now, the other big difference is that you'll notice here, these are going to be, I've just left these exactly the same as the X1 because I bought my putty after I had already started working. But conceivably, I could have put some putty in the holes, filled those in, sanded them down, and then painted them. And if you're a really good modeler, you could add something in down here to fill that in, to make it look more like Tobia's thing. My only argument, and this is sort of being cheap, but in the 6th volume of the manga, he does have a regular shield like the X1, but I know that's being a little bit chintzy. Looking inside, you can see that I took those gray parts inside the shoulder armor and painted them red to match the manga. And of course, here you can see that I have 3 completely different colors of yellow. This yellow I had put in before I bought my yellow paint, but then I painted these yellow parts on the beam sabers using the spray, and then I've got stickers on here over the shoulders, so basically it's all a hodgepodge in terms of the yellow and orange variations all over there, which isn't all that good. Otherwise, it's little things like adding these red parts up here on the shoulders that really make the X3 look distinct. The X3's most famous weapon, though, of course, is the Muramasa Blaster, and this is a blaster, and it's got 14 beam swords, and it also has the ability to put a blaster or a huge sword out the end of there, which was something that the Master Grade didn't give us, but the Robot Damacy does. Anyway, the only things that I really did down here was just to add some baby blue, the sky blue here around there, and then put some yellow paint down at the end of the handle, which makes it look a lot better when it's in blaster mode, although not that noticeable when it's in sword mode. Of course, why is it in this kind of pose? Because it's going to have the exact same weight issues that you may have already seen in my full cloth review. Finally, it's the head that was the hardest part to get everything all together. I painted the goatee, and I ended up using taping and spray to get the 2 red stripes down the side. Now, the X1 has gouges that sort of go down halfway down the face here, but this one, I extended them down and added the second one. And of course, if you know the manga well, this should go all the way to the back, the one on the top. But I just sort of gave up and didn't want to tape off something round like that, and my freehand, it failed horribly. Now, the X3, its biggest thing, of course, is putting the snake-like 3 on the forehead, and that was a little bit of a trick. And I failed quite a few times before I got something that, even though I'm not completely satisfied with it, meets the criteria for being good enough. So to make the 3, and I had a lot of help thanks to the friendly people at my local hobby shops here that sell gunpla and all the tools. Anyway, they recommended buying 2 millimeter here plastic that you can barely make out there. And all I did is I painted that white and then cut it out using an X-Acto knife or my modeler's knife until I got something that looked like the 3. Now the plus of using this is that you get the raised effect, which is something I was sort of looking for, and it's a little bit comically oversized, which I think sort of suits the manga niche of this. The only problem is this glue was a disaster for me, this cement. So as I tried to put it on, it ended up just wrecking everything. Then I had to cut out another 3 and sand everything down, repaint it in blue, then I ran out of blue. Anyway, long story short, what I ended up doing is just the ultimate in low tech. It just so happens that my sticky tack that I use, especially to keep weapons in hand when they want to fall out, I just ended up putting that behind the 3 and just smushing it on. So what that means is that this is not on there all that securely, and it can fall off if you touch it the wrong way, but at the same time it sort of preserves that 3D comic effect, and it's a lot easier to deal with than with the glue. Well, for lazy people like me. Now, of course, there's no need for you to go make your own if you're happy with the ones that are available. So this was my first Robot Damacy, and I only bought it because it was on sale for dirt cheap. And I liked it as a toy just because of the posability, but you can check out its full review. But the colors, etc., there were a few things that didn't really do it for me, so I figured maybe I will give it a shot myself. The only thing is, of course, you'll notice that the huge difference here in the V-fins, I didn't try to extend those using putty or anything, but that's something that would really add to the X3 look. Now, this is the more realistic blue, but in a way, I'm sort of happy with the sky blue. At the end of the day, though, my whole motivation for making this X3 was just to recreate this kind of scene. So here you have Tobia's first lead Gundam, we can argue with the X3, and on the right we have the X1 Kai Kai, which he gets given to him by Kincaid now, and he of course adds the full cloth to that in the last chapter of Steel 7 before he goes off on his final mission. But I just love the combination of the two of them together, and the colors, and especially just the full cloth, makes this look like a completely different Gundam. But the X3 looks small and smooth with its Muramasa blaster, whereas focusing on the Peacock Smasher, and as I was upgrading the X3, I was using some paints and I added some paint down there, so some of the things that bugged me about the full cloth, I fixed with paint. So that's it, just a little bit talk about my first experience with trying to paint. Now this certainly is not pro model quality. There's all sorts of things that I should have done, like put on different gauntlets here, then fixed of course the V-fin to make them longer and more cool, and a whole bunch of other stuff anyway. But it was something that was easy to do, and I've always wanted to try to get into painting, but you sort of have to have that motivation to go and spend the money. And if you've got something, like a long time ago, I saw a Mark II painted up in Char Custom Red. And if you watch the first few episodes of Zeta Gundam, that makes perfect sense. And for me, just to go take a Gundam, I have no imagination. So if I'm going to go paint my own custom color scheme, it's going to look worse than what they already intended. But in this case, it was just a matter of taking the X1, fiddling around with a few parts, and making it sky blue. So at the end of the day, I thought this was a very good first project. So for anybody who's out there who's like me and just builds, don't be afraid to give this a shot. And for all of you pro modelers who probably tuned out 10 minutes ago saying, Robert, you have no idea what you're doing. Well, you're totally right. But anyway, for those of you who haven't tried it and were like me, go ahead, give it a shot, and you may be happy with the results. Just take your time, use a lot of tape, and spray many, many times from a good distance. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for lots more. Gundam.tk. Now who's right here, or more right? Virtue in sky blue, or the Robot Damacy one, with its much cooler, darker, more mature looking sort of purplish color there?